Alrighty. My sincerest apologies for the delay. Hang on. But this one is actually going to be kind of a truncated short version, essentially just a part two of my live stream from last night. Essentially, I just did the outlines on this one, and now I'm just doing the color. So, yeah. So, as is customary, I will do another time-lapse replay of how this one sort of came together. And yeah, if you're new to the channel, I live stream sort of semi-regularly. There's no real sort of set date or time when I go live, but I am trying to sort of ameliorate a lot of that kind of inconsistent slacking off. It just boils down to the fact that when I say I'm busy, I'm usually just playing video games or something like that, just distracted and whatever. But yeah, it's not saying that video games don't have their place. It's just that I've got to get sort of a bit of a wriggle on because we are currently just charging through October at the moment, and pretty soon it will be the Christmas season again. And for a country that doesn't really get too enthusiastic about Halloween, the Christmas season can very quickly creep up on you. We do celebrate Halloween in Australia, but it's very low key and it's nowhere near as amazing and fun and full on as it is in the United States and Canada, which realistically have a much more seasonal weather for that particular holiday. I'm not knocking Australia's weather in any respect. I mean, for this time of year, for it to be so unseasonably cold, it's actually kind of interesting. There haven't been enough warm days for it to really be considered late spring, early summer. We've had a few absolute doozies, and we've had a few that have caused total fire bans, and there's been warnings of heat waves and stuff. But yeah, where I currently live, nowhere near that level of warmth. So yeah, moving right along. Now, I started working on this job, and I've been sort of picking at it on and off for about a week and a bit. Like the thing is, when I do jobs, I usually work on like half a dozen at once, depending on like how soon they're required and everything. And I'll make sure that I just double check things like, what are they called? I double check things like deadlines and budgets and all that fun stuff. Because when you work for yourself, as I have for as long as I have, you don't only have to be your own like artist, you also have to be like your own hype man. So I draw mostly using this is a slightly older version of Procreate. There's a new version of Procreate that's just come out, which is seriously amazing. I've only seen like little bits of it, and it's primarily used to make animations with. Essentially, what I'm seeing with the Procreate team is they're starting to gradually muscle in on harmony and Toon Boom, because for the longest time, like, those guys have been pretty much the unofficial gatekeepers when it comes to animation software, particularly for like traditional hand-drawn stuff. Like, if you want to make something in 3D, you can use Toon Boom, but like there are still significantly better and cheaper products out there. Like, you know, Maya is a good one. ZBrush is also good, but that's more used for like sculpting, like making the characters themselves. ZBrush can, I think, be used for animation, but I don't think that's what it's really used for most of the time. What else? I'll just turn off this clouds and red dirt and smoking in the background layers. They won't be necessary for this. But yeah, that's essentially what I want to use. Then, like, the new version of Procreate, I want to start like really focusing on putting out more animated stuff, because I have some training in animation. Like, I'm primarily self-taught with just about everything that I do. like the way I've always learned is kind of I just have to do it. Like I can't really be sort of sitting there and writing down too much theory. I've always been a practical. Like I've always found theory to be stifling, which is weird because I can write and I actually quite enjoy, you know, sort of putting ideas down, you know, contemplating what my thoughts actually are when it comes to certain things. But at the end of the day, like I don't want to be contemplating too much about the art itself. And that's kind of what made, at least for me, learning art, because I did go to art school briefly. That's what I always found so stifling about the whole process, because although I ended up doing a course that required very little in the way of theory, because I'm just like, oh, why is this the way it is, and just like, because that's what people like and that's what people buy and that's what we're here for. We're here to make stuff so we can make a living. If it has a deeper societal impact, that's great and stuff, but at the moment I just need to eat. Like, you can worry about the theory side of things, you know, once everyone's had their dinner, you know what I mean? So what I'm doing here is I'm just getting rid of the undersketch, which was kind of merged with the color layer originally, which is a little bit of an oversight on my part, but it's pretty easy to block in the colors here. I saw a rather fun but at the same time depressing video short earlier today. Bruce Willis just celebrating his birthday with his family. He was there with his wife and his daughters and stuff. And it was great seeing him sort of up and about, but man, he's deteriorated. Like, I can see why he just doesn't like act in movies anymore. Because whatever like illness he's currently battling, it's doing an absolute number on him, the poor guy. Like, he's lost one of his front teeth. He sort of mumbles a fair bit. So I am under the impression that we might not have Bruce for too many more years. But he seemed to be in good enough spirits and everything. And, you know, making a very wise executive decision to just get out of Hollywood and just, enjoy the fruits of his labor and, go into retirement is honestly the most admirable thing I can think of. All the mess that happened with his personal life, particularly in the early 2000s. Like Ashton Kutcher and all that. Like, he's come out of it, obviously the clear winner. Demi Moore appears to have also completely retired from acting as well. It's like, when it comes to movie stars, guys like Morgan Freeman are actually pretty rare. Because it's really not a forever job. Like, things go well for a little while. And I imagine there's still a huge amount of, competition anxiety and peer pressure. I've just been in the process of, updating the social medias and whatnot. It's kind of strange, like, have you ever just sort of signed up and created a profile on some social media platform and then just straight up abandoned it almost immediately? Like, I got an update email from Vero, and I almost felt guilty that I never did anything with Vero. I'm just like, okay, great. Like, if there was ever a social media platform that I could just off the top of my head say is even more unused by me than, say, LinkedIn, it's Vero. And I actually use LinkedIn like more than I realized. You know, every now and then I'll get a little reminder saying that, you know, there might be a job for me. And I'm happy to take a look at them, like the jobs and everything. But for me, it's like, I just don't have the time. And that's a funny thing about, you know, when you're in your 40s. Like that amount of time that you have to care about really anything that's like not something that immediately needs to be addressed becomes just shorter and shorter. And I'm not saying like, you know, me turning down these jobs is being a bit of a snob or whatever, like a job snob. It's just that like you do get to a certain age where you can't even like muster the interest. You know, and sometimes I honestly do, like, I will check out the skill set. Just something I just can't devote at this point. Like, I'm not going to lie, I think I just briefly lost my train of thought. Yeah, this guy's coming along rather nicely. Now, the cool thing about metal as well is you can sort of dance light and colors off it very easily. Made the whole design really pop. And the cool thing about, what's it called? Procreate is it's designed for drawing and drawing very quickly. It's the main reason why I don't actually use Photoshop very much. Like, Adobe does a similar like product to Procreate. It's called Fresco, but I find it is not as good, and that's just a me preference. Like some people out there might find that Fresco's significantly better than Procreate, but I don't know. I just don't see much fanfare about it. Like usually, if there's a product out there that's like, you know, really taking the world by storm, like I'd definitely see, you know, more ads for it, more influencers sort of talking about it, but I honestly haven't. So I want to keep this one to maybe an hour 10. Oh, cool. The new Horizon Forbidden West game is out. I tried getting into that game and didn't like it that much. Of the PlayStation exclusives that I've, you know, been able to, you know, sit down and complete, because I'm not the gamer that I used to be. I just cannot, you know. It's like, to me, it's like a homework assignment now. Yeah, I tried to get into Horizon But yes, it's another one of those games that is found like cool but a bit tedious. And again, that's just me. Like my preferences for video games are very old school. Like I noticed recently that a bunch of like 90s era video games are getting sort of remastered and re-released, and that is really really cool because like the kids that grew up in the 90s, and I'm one of them, like like the 90s was 30 years ago. Hard to believe. All my heroes are retired or dying. I saw, Pamela Anderson. And she's now in her sort of late 50s. I just realised that that's not actually that much older than me. And it's weird how, like, your concept of time rapidly changes, when you kind of age out of being considered like a newbie. Like you get that sort of, I guess you can call it like veteran treatment, but I think that just comes with the fact that you've just been around for so long. It's like everyone's so old now. Like even this franchise that, I'm doing a mashup of, like, the original Terminator is like from like the late 80s. Killer robot from the future. If you've ever seen the first Terminator movie, it's pretty cool, but a lot of it doesn't hold up. Like you see a very young, inexperienced actor in Arnold Schwarzenegger, because essentially, like, the role just required him not to say anything, because at that time he hadn't like been an actor for very long. Like he had a natural screen presence even back then, but his Austrian accent was just sort of an absolute deal breaker, because people just straight up did not understand him. And like people are used to him now because he's been around for so long, and everyone can sort of do a rather hacky impersonation of him. But back in like the late 70s, no one knew what to make of the guy. It's like, here's this giant Western European with a gap-toothed smile and just these gigantic biceps just wandering around, and you know, people are just like, hey, we need this guy in our movie. And like, he's had such an amazing career based primarily around being in the right place at the right time. He's honestly an inspiration to this day. Like, you see, you know, photos of him back when he was a competitive bodybuilder, and even then you knew there was something different about him. Something like he had that X factor. Yeah, but everyone starts somewhere. Alright, this guy's... he's looking pretty good. Let's throw on a background. And let's clean up. The scraggly bits. So I am looking forward to the last convention of the year. I will be back in Melbourne in early December. Get rid of that layer completely. It's not necessary anymore. How am I doing on time? Yeah, not too shabby. Yep. So I have a feeling that I'll probably be able to keep this to just over an hour. It's hard to say. And I'm flying interstate tomorrow. Well, not tomorrow, but the day after tomorrow for a 3-hour gig. We are drawing live. So we've got something of an early-ish start, but not too bad. I do like the interplay of the colors on this one. I think it's gonna really pop when it's contrasted. See how it goes, I don't know. I've kind of made little Grogu from The Mandalorian sort of resembles Stitch from Lilo and Stitch, which is another live action remake apparently, which, you know, I'm not faulting Disney for making all of these live action remakes, because you got to make something. You can't just have these, you know, these movies everybody, you know, loves and grew up with, just like mothballed and just re-released every so often on a different format. Because that's the thing. People just don't buy, like, DVDs and Blu-rays the way they used to. Like, I was never much of a Blu-ray format person. I just thought, like, is the picture quality really going to be that much more superior? And the answer is obviously no. But yeah, like I mentioned, I think in a previous live stream, that we're going full circle back to, what's it called? Yeah, full circle back into network television. It's weird how all this technology has Going around in a big old circle. And I'm not, like, I used to be a avid moviegoer. Like, I used to go to the movies all the time. Because there was some absolute bangers that came out, like, in the late 90s. And early 2000s. I remember, like, leaving the movie theater after watching, what's it called? The first Matrix movie. And that movie, blew my mind. Another movie that I also still have very fond memories of is the first Men in Black movie. It's like I've got an entire sort of Easter egg spoiler video essay about Men in Black. But it just boils down to, like, the opening scene of the movie itself. But I won't spoil it. Because if you guys have seen it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah, I figured I wouldn't be able to keep it to, like, a strict 1 hour. That's okay. Add a bit more detail to this gun. All right, I'm pretty happy with how that's turned out. So, yes, obviously I'll be doing some further detail updates to this one, but yeah, until then, we'd just like to thank everyone who tuned in, or just sort of clicked on the what's it called, video thumbnail, just to have a bit of a squiz at what I'm creating here, and may have stumbled upon like a patch of dead air when I was deep in concentration and drawing, and thought, well, he's not saying anything. I better bail before it gets awkward. But yes, I do appreciate everyone who's watching tonight. So yeah, without further ado, I will wrap it up there, and I will see ya when I see ya.